You have no memory of learning to walk. No memory of the first time you heard music, or felt cold, or tasted something sweet. You were there. You were awake. Your brain was recording everything, and yet, nothing. A blank. A void where the first 2 or 3 years of your life should be. This is one of the strangest facts about being human, and the explanation goes far deeper than you think. Most people assume they just forgot, that infant memories faded like old photographs, worn down by time. But that is not what happened. The truth is far stranger. Your early memories were never stored the way adult memories are, and the reason why reveals something unsettling about the brain you are using right now. Let us start at the beginning. Your beginning. When you were born, your brain weighed about 350 grams, a third of its adult size. The neurons were there, roughly 100 billion of them, but the connections between them were almost non-existent. Your brain was not a finished computer. It was a construction site. Every single day of your infancy, your brain was building itself at a speed it will never reach again. 1 million new neural connections forming every second. The scaffolding going up faster than any other period in your entire life. But here is the problem. Building that fast means you cannot afford to be precious about everything you build. The brain of a baby is in pure growth mode, and growth mode is not the same as storage mode. The part of your brain responsible for forming long-term autobiographical memories, the hippocampus, was not ready, not even close. Research by Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn at the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto showed that in early infancy, the hippocampus is still generating new neurons at an enormous rate. This process is called neurogenesis, and it turns out that neurogenesis, as extraordinary as it is, actively disrupts the memories that already exist. Think about that. The very growth that was making you smarter was simultaneously erasing what you had just experienced. New neurons push into the hippocampus like new students filling a classroom. The old seating arrangements get disrupted. The old connections get overwritten. Your infant brain was so busy becoming that it could not hold on to what it had already been. This is why researchers call the phenomenon infantile amnesia, not infant amnesia. The amnesia belongs to the infantile brain state, not to the infant itself. The experience was real. The forgetting was structural. But neurogenesis alone does not tell the whole story. Because there is a second force at work. Something even more fundamental. You did not have a self. This sounds strange. Of course you existed as a baby. You cried, you laughed, you wanted things. But having experiences is not the same as having a self that experiences. And the difference matters enormously for memory. Psychologist Mark Howe at City, University of London, has spent decades studying childhood memory. His research consistently shows that autobiographical memory, the kind that says this happened to me, requires a self-concept, a stable internal identity that can anchor events in time, that can say, I was there, this is mine, this is part of my story. Infants do not have that, not yet. Before the age of 2, your brain had no clear boundary between self and world. You registered sensation, emotion, novelty, pain. But you did not file them under a name. You did not tag them with a date. There was no narrator. There was no you organizing the story, because the you who would eventually do that organizing did not yet exist. Memory, it turns out, is not just about recording. It is about authorship. And you were not yet the author. There is a third layer to this: language. Most of what you remember from your adult life is stored in a way that is deeply linked to words. When you remember a conversation, a lesson, a story someone told you, language is the scaffolding holding the memory together. It gives you a structure, a beginning, middle, and end, a way to retrieve the memory later by finding the right verbal key. Infants have no language, or almost none, which means the experiences they have cannot be encoded in the dominant format that adult human memory uses. Research by Gabrielle Simcock and Hein Harleen at the University of Otago found something remarkable. Children who learned to talk after experiencing a specific event could only describe that event using the words they had at the time of the experience, not the words they learned later. The memory was frozen in the linguistic capacity of the moment. For a baby, that capacity is nearly zero. The memory gets encoded, if at all, in a pre-verbal format that the adult brain simply cannot translate. It is not that the file was deleted. It is that the file is in a language the adult version of you no longer speaks. This is why some of your very earliest retrievable memories have a peculiar quality. They are often wordless, a fragment of color, a feeling of warmth, a shape moving across a ceiling. These are not stories, they are impressions. Sensory ghosts of a brain that had not yet learned to narrate. Now here is where it gets strange. Because this amnesia is not the same for every culture. Psychologist Chi Wang at Cornell University compared the earliest childhood memories reported by adults in the United States and adults in China. American participants reported memories from an average age of 3.5 years old. Chinese participants reported memories from an average age of 4 years. The difference was consistent, and it was tied to something specific: the way children were encouraged to talk about their own experiences. American parents, on average, engage their children in more elaborate personal storytelling, asking them to reconstruct events, to talk about what happened and how they felt. This scaffolded the self-narrative earlier. It pushed the boundary of retrievable memory backward in time by helping children build the autobiographical self sooner. This means the beginning of your personal memory is not just a biological event. It is a cultural one. The stories other people helped you tell about yourself, shaped when you became a self capable of remembering. And one more thing you should know. The memories are not entirely gone. Researchers call it implicit memory, the traces left in your nervous system that do not surface as conscious recollections but that still shape you. Your preferences, your fears, your instinct to reach for something before you know why. A study by Nathalia Girso and colleagues found that early experiences leave structural imprints on the brain even when no explicit memory survives. The emotion gets stored, the body gets trained, the conscious story just never forms. Which means that somewhere in you, the baby is still there. Not as a memory you can call up, but as a pattern, a reflex, a shape your nervous system learned before you had words for any of it. You will never remember learning to walk. You will never remember the first face that bent over your crib and smiled at you. You will never remember the exact moment your brain first heard music and something in it stirred. But your legs remember. Your face remembers. Something in you still responds to a melody in a way that cannot entirely be explained by anything that happened after the age of 3. The blank years were not empty. They built everything underneath. And the self you are using right now, the one reading these words, the one who thinks it started somewhere in early childhood, began far earlier than you remember. In a place your language cannot reach. In a time your conscious mind cannot find. You have no memory of learning to walk. But every step you take is proof that you did.